good sir, and welcome back from your journey. I don't even know.
Sojourn,
Is this
journey, vacation,
trip?
holiday, as the Europeans say. My holiday.
How was it?
Oh, it was fantastic. One of the things that my wife said that I love and I think is entirely appropriate is that you can't help but trip over ancient history as you're walking around Greece. Like,
Yeah.
you're just walking trying to get to a little souvenir shop and oh my gosh, there's, a giant temple to some forgotten god, Oh, here's the old Roman, agora. Here's the all of, it's just yeah, it's really fascinating. My favorite was we were in a little souvenir shop in Athens in the Plaka, and we're looking around. Beatrix is over doing her thing, picking out some souvenirs for friends, and my wife is looking at stuff, and when we notice over by the t-shirts, literally under the t-shirts, there's like this glass window in the floor area.
Mhm.
And you look down and there's a bunch of ancient ruins down there.
Yeah.
Like like literally the shop sitting on top of, you
Mhm.
know?
Weirdly
And and
enough,
and well, you
we
start to realize, oh my gosh, there's been a shop on this corner selling tchotchkes probably for 3,000 years.
weirdly enough, and this is by no stretch of the imagination the same thing to the same degree, but there's a block in Victoria that has little glass blocks that are like they're very thick on the sidewalk,
Mhm.
and I mean, they need to be redone because they've been there for so long. They need to be kind of,
Mm.
for lack of a better term,
Set.
clarified.
Yeah.
But same thing. There's like stuff underneath that people would use, like tunnels or what have you. But I mean, that's a whole different animal. But it is
Yeah.
interesting how we build on top of, and we build on top of like societies have done this
Mhm.
forever and ever. Amen. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I mean, but that's true of everything,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
I mean,
we
even
do it with
even
nature.
even right, sure, yeah. I mean, even things that we think about as inventions, like, uh, the car, for
Mhm.
instance, was built on top of, you know, um, everything that we learned about wagons, which
Yep.
was, built on top of everything that we learned about chariots, which was built on top of the invention of the wheel, right? I
Yep.
mean, it's like all,
Layers.
I mean, there are very few truly original anything in this world. It's all a remix or a continuation of, right?
Right.
Um,
It's interesting. I was thinking about this last week sometime around, all the fear around AI. Oh, it's going to take our jobs. It's going to do this. And I mean, again,
mhm.
that's real absolutist thinking, and I'm not a fan of that.
Mm.
But I started to think about, well, wait a minute. What about farming? Like when farming, like farmers never used to have the machinery that they had
Mhm,
to take care of their farms and so on and so
mhm.
forth. And I started to think about it in those terms. And I mean, it's not exactly the same. And that's the other thing. None of this stuff is exactly the same. But I thought there was a lot of people that were probably worried, oh my goodness, like we're going to lose our jobs. The machines are going to be able to do all this without us. But it still takes the guiding hand of a human. And I think that, if you can draw comparisons to that with AI as it stands now. I don't think, again, it's not a one and done, one size fits all, absolutist kind of concept, but we've done this historically again and again and again. I mean, as
Yeah.
technology, I mean, paper, great example, right? Like, what did
Mhm,
we wrote on tablet and everything is, and now, I
mhm.
mean, you and I are probably more precious about paper than some because we like the quality of the paper and such, right? So I think it's
Yeah,
really, but it takes a certain amount of, well, this is the topic, grace to kind of
yeah.
not just realize that. I think realization is something that happens regardless, but recognize and uh, recognize and come to terms with, right? And go with, not go with the flow is not the right term, but it's what I'm going to use in
Mhm.
this instance, right? To be able to say, okay, well, you know, and in my mind, you need space to have that ability to, you know, demonstrate grace, right? I mean, you're on a trip, so your
Mhm.
distance from your day-to-day life allows you, I think, especially, I mean, and I know how you are and how your family is when they're exploring something, right? When there is a
Mhm.
level of grace that you would have probably illustrated unknowingly, or even at a lower level as you made your way through Greece, right?
Sure, right. Well, and, Greece is, very much a culture, um, that appreciates, um, goodwill, right? And
Right.
and that's what grace is, right? Grace is goodwill, in Greece, they appreciate the honest effort to, at the very least, say hello or good morning in Greek. Everyone speaks perfect English. So once
Yeah.
once you say it with your American accent, they will realize, oh, but they do appreciate the yasis or the the oh gosh, now I've already forgotten good morning. Or good afternoon. Oh my gosh, it doesn't
Well,
take
you're not
long.
immersed in it either
Um,
anymore, right? I think immersion is part of that process too. Like
oh,
when you're
yeah, 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 yeah.
when you're in it,
Calamera is good morning, by the way, and Calispera is good afternoon.
and calamari is
Calamita is
something that you eat.
calamari is something that you eat. Yeah, also spelled with a C versus a K.
Yes,
But
fair.
yeah.
Wait a minute. So what's Kalamata? Because Kalamata olives are what I normally put in a Greek salad. What's
Uh,
Kalamata? Is that
well, I mean,
it's probably a,
Cala.
a region, right, or something like that?
Well, no. Well, so I guess um, it's Cali versus Kala,
Right.
right? I'm not sure what Kala, the root of
Well,
Kala is, but
I'm gonna look it up.
Kali Kali is essentially good, right?
Right.
Kalimera, good morning. Kalispera, good afternoon. Kalanita is good night. Um, yeah. In any case,
It,
but
it's basically an
all
olive.
of
It's still an olive. It doesn't
it's just
change.
an olive. It doesn't change.
Kalamata meaning is a brine. It just says it's an olive.
Right. Well, and keep in mind, as you know, and I can't remember whether I've stated it on this program or not. A big part of the reason for this trip was, we wanted to do something that was kind of big and special for a couple of reasons. Number one, um, Beatrix is a big fan of the movie Mamma Mia. It's filmed
Mm-hmm.
in Greece. A big part of the trip was actually built around going to see the filming locations.
Yeah.
And it was filmed on Skiathos and Skopelos, two islands, neighboring islands um, that are about, a 2.5 hour trip from Volos. Um,
Ferry ride, I would assume.
Ferry, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Just make
and
sure
and
you
a
pay the
car is
just make sure you pay the ferryman,
you
right?
pay the ferryman, yeah, exactly. Well, and I will say that, for what we were doing, a car was absolutely essential.
Yeah.
They're just, especially on Scatho and Skopelos, there's no way to get to these places if you do not have one. Um, uh, but, another reason was that it was my wife's and I was coming up on our 20th anniversary, and knowing kind of how the summer was going to go, knowing we wouldn't be able to take a big trip like this during the summer, it kind of was in kind of recognition of that, 20
Mhm.
years together, or 20 years married, I should say, 22 together. Um, but, uh all of that is to say that, we had to balance, right? What everyone wanted from the trip, right? You
Right.
know, um, my daughter wanted to make sure that she was able to check off certain Mamma Mia related bucket list items and make her little TikTok videos that she wanted to do there and wear her special outfits that she had gotten for said occasions
Hmm.
and all of that. And that was great. And, my wife and I wanted to have kind of a romantic trip and to reminisce about, our days, which, only makes your kids' eyes roll, because the
Yeah.
very idea of
Hmm.
their parents even liking each other, let alone being still in love, is anathema. And so, and so, and all of that, right, takes a certain amount of grace, right, a certain amount of like understanding that, oh, that this is about her in this particular instance, and we want to make sure we honor that. And we also want to say this is about us and this, occasion, make sure that everybody is getting what they want and is feeling like their needs are being honored.
Grace and balance do go hand in hand. You're right, because I mean, I'm looking back at the excursion, like the trip that my son and I took a few years ago, which I'm now seeing. Well, I recently saw as we're recording this pop up on my memories on Facebook because it was 3 years ago where we went out east. So we flew
Mhm.
from Vancouver to Philadelphia, actually Vancouver through Seattle to Philadelphia, and then we went
Mm.
down to DC, then up to New Jersey and New York. And we spent like 10 days during his spring break. And it was that balance of what are the things that he wants to do, and what are the things that I want to do, and what are we going to enjoy doing together. And it was really interesting because I think one of the things that came from that trip, I mean, there were a multitude of things that we planned to do that we each wanted to make sure we covered, things that were serendipitous, because I think that's the other thing too, is when you have that ability to, not only have balance, but also accompany it with grace, that I think serendipity is something you notice more. Like you can capture those moments a bit more. Like the fact that we were in Philadelphia and it happened to be the opening of the Disney Studios 100th anniversary exhibit at the Benjamin Franklin Museum. Like, well, let's go to that. Or knowing that we wanted to try both Pat's and Gino's Philly cheesesteaks and just saying, well, let's try both and do a taste test or whatever.
Mhm.
But then,
Mhm. Mhm.
being in New Jersey and going to see a Devils game, and my son not being a huge fan of sports, but getting like when we're in watching the game live, he's like, okay, I get it a bit now. Like, I mean, I'm not a fan,
Mhm.
but I understand it now.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
and then at the same time, him finding out that the actual only physical Mr. Beast burger restaurant was in Secaucus at the American Dream Mall. And he's like, can we go there? I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like a 15-minute Uber ride. We went there. We saw two theme parks and a water park in there. There's a huge, like 3-story, I think, sugar can like one of those chain sugar. I think it's called Hey Sugar, which is like the big candy
Okay.
stores with a giant
Yeah.
Statue of Liberty made out of jelly beans. And all of that we got to eat at Mr. Beast Burger, which I don't even think is there anymore. I think it's gone too. But all of
Yep.
that because there was an openness. And I think when there's an
Right.
openness, things like, well, I mean, to kind of harp on some of the principles of productiveness, all those things are more open to you. Not just grace, but nuance, tolerance, all of those things, because there's a human element to it. And number one, I mean, Beatrix will never forget that trip, period. Right? She'll never
Sure.
forget it. And my son will never
Sure.
forget it either. And it's because
Right.
it was, for lack of a better term, I think at least my trip was, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. The trip felt complete.
Yes. And that was certainly true. Everybody left this trip, I think, feeling like they got to do, all the things that they wanted to do, all the things that they had hoped to do. Um, I think that actually is unusual and it's rare, right?
Hmm.
That, and in some ways it might be better or not better, but there's advantages to kind of leaving a little bit on the table to come back
Sure,
to.
sure,
You know
sure.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like oh, I went, but I didn't get to do this one thing or these couple of things. And I'd
Hmm.
love to go back, and this motivation to go back someday. And that's great too, not to discount that, but I certainly feel like if I never made it back to Greece again,
Hmm.
which I'd love to, is fantastic, and there's areas and islands and things that we certainly decided against, and we could
Ibiza
have
being one of them.
actually, no, but like Santorini,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Corinth,
yeah. Yeah.
you know, there's certainly some islands and some historical places for sure that I think, you know, I mean, if I were to go back, that would be my concentration. But no, I think this particular trip, we all walked away feeling like, yes, we did the things we set out to do. We're not coming away feeling like we missed anything. And if for some reason we are never able to make it back to Greece, um, that's that's okay, right? That's all right.
Do you think that travel beyond one's borders, so for example, leaving Canada, leaving the US, I mean, this can happen inside of our
Mm-hmm.
respective countries. Do you think that that kind of elevates or maybe reinforces the quality of grace that you can, like, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. Oh, for sure, for certain, right? Because um, there's a number of reasons behind that, and I know I'm just rehashing things that people might or probably already know. Um, but there's a surprising number of people I run into who have never traveled outside the United States, right?
There's probably people that
Um,
have never left Minnesota. Like for
or
me, like there's people who have
but
never
yeah,
left
there,
Vancouver Island, and I'm like, how? We were
yeah,
on an island,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly, yeah. And you know, God bless them. I give them
Sure.
grace. There's many life circumstances that would you know, uh let me just say that, like, until I met Bethany, my two other children, I have three, and
Hmm.
they're from my first marriage. They're much older. They're in their 30s. They're adults. So I
Hmm.
don't talk about them as much. But when Bethany and I met, they were teenagers, and they had never been on a plane before. Their first flight was when we went to Washington D.C., I do believe. Or no,
Wow.
yeah.
Ha-
That was at
My
Washington.
first time on an airplane
Uh,
was 18 or 19.
yeah, yeah,
I went to, and my first flight was from Toronto
mhm,
to Prague. Like
yeah.
I made, and that was on my own. My buddy lived there, and
Wow.
that was an amazing experience because it was
Yeah.
like I'd never been on a plane. I landed in a completely foreign country that realistically, because this would have been in 1993, 94.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was 19. I think it was, yeah, it was 94 because I know I turned 20 when I was there. It was eye opening to me
Yeah. Yeah.
that, and I can tell you that and I'm sure, I mean, with Beatrix, it's the same. Like when Ann and I got together, like our kids flew a lot. Our kids were on planes
Mm-hmm.
before they even turned two. My son has obviously he's traveled on his own. Like they travel up to the Yukon to visit their nana up there. My son and I,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, he's going to fly. He actually got into a university program. I think I told you a little bit about this, but for a month in the summer,
Mm-hmm.
he's going away for
Mm-hmm.
a special program. To his university was selected. He got put into a university, so he's going. I think both going
That's
together
great.
to
That's
Regina,
great.
Saskatchewan, home of Wade
Okay.
Wilson, aka Deadpool.
Eh,
So
eh,
we're going there together, but he's flying back on his own. And my daughter has been to Europe and did 4 months there, and she fly like I mean, so
yeah,
there,
yeah.
I think that
Uh,
that cracking open, I think for you, for was that wasn't obviously your first flight. I
oh,
mean,
no. Oh, no, no, no. I flew all the time, growing up,
right.
for, any number of reasons, um, but all of that is to say that traveling outside the country, to another place, a different culture, with a different language, um, what you kind of understand is, number 1, um, basically how connected we are and how small the world really is.
Mhm.
An example, um, our last night there, we stopped by a little cafe bar, um, because there was kind of a lending library bookshelf in there, and Bethany
Mhm.
had a book that she had finished and, didn't want to have to drag back a book she had already read, and she thought, "Oh, if we could just stop back there real quick, I'll go into the lending library." And we had been in there before for an actual drink, so that's how we knew that was there. Um, the owner lady, recognized us, we were chit-chatting, because at first she wasn't quite understanding that, like, "Oh, no, we're stopping in just to drop off this book. We don't need a seat. We don't need," so that took
Yeah.
some stuff. But but, she asked us, "Where are you from in the United States?" And we told her Minnesota. She said, "Wait," and this is the only other couple in there, the only other couple at that time. Um the people sitting outside on the patio, they're from Minnesota too. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And so, we went out and we chit-chatted, and turned out they were from, Lakeville, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, an exurb actually
Mhm.
of, Minneapolis, we chit-chatted back and forth. He's got a mobile detailing place. I'm like, "Oh, the collision shop that's kind of across the street from us in St. Paul is looking for a good detailer. Maybe here's my card, here's it." But, I mean, here we are,
Yeah.
literally on the other side of the planet practically.
Mhm.
And I'm talking to somebody who might as well be a neighbor, right?
Yeah.
Um And, it is things like that. My while we were there, it turns out that, um, a friend that my, daughter, went to elementary school with, her senior class, there was the senior class trip for her school, completely different school from my daughter's school, um, was happening. They were there in Athens.
Wow.
Right? And so it's things like that that remind you that, like, no matter where you go, you're not, the chances of you running into someone who's from the same city, the same town, the same area, whatever, are extremely high.
Mhm.
Because we are a global connected world. Um, but also I think too, you also learn that, hey, people here are not that much different than back home, right? They have the same hopes and dreams. They have you know, the same essential way of life, right? They have, um, and that it is those things that are different that are interesting and fascinating, right? Things that you have to have some grace and adjust to, right? One of the things that if you ever travel to Europe, especially European countries like Spain is like this, but Greece turns out to be too. And I didn't know this going over, and that is your schedule for eating and drinking for breakfast, lunch,
Yeah.
and different,
Yep.
eh, you've
Portugal is
got
the
to
same.
adjust.
Portugal is the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
you've
exactly
got
the
to
same.
adjust
Yep.
that.
Yep.
You've got to adjust that
Yep.
because, I mean, the nice thing is that if you do wanna eat at 7 o'clock and the place happens to be open, well, you'll have your choice of tables because no one else is there eating dinner at 7 o'clock.
No, no.
That place isn't getting folks in for dinner until 9
It's
at the
meant for night
earliest.
owls like us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
So when we were in Portugal, same. It was so interesting when we were there I was there for a conference a couple of years ago, and I was speaking at a conference in Lisbon, but we also did Porto, and we did we spent some time there because if we're going to go that
Mhm.
far, you want to spend some time.
Yeah,
And
you might as well take advantage of it.
and so when we were in Porto, my wife wanted to go to this really completely gluten free Italian restaurant because she
Hmm.
can't do gluten.
Yeah,
And
right.
it was only open for a very short window of time, and you had to make a reservation. It was very small, and we actually have an Italian restaurant here that's similar, although it has all the gluten, but it's very condensed, and it's like going to a restaurant in Manhattan, right? Like in the city,
Right,
where you're
right,
like,
yeah.
okay, everything is condensed. And so we get there, and we did not have a reservation. She said, well, we'll take a shot. And we got there, and somebody didn't show up, and they're like, we give them 5 minutes. And the door is locked, by the way. So the guy comes to the door
Oh,
and he
fun.
sees people waiting outside, and he goes, oh, do you have a reservation? No. Okay, well, everyone only has 5 minutes after the reservation to get here. If it's after 5 minutes, their reservation's gone. And we're like, well, we'll wait. And we waited, and time passes. And it's the longest 5 minutes because my wife really wanted to go here. And we were only in Porto for I think 2 nights. And
Yeah.
they did not show up. And we got to go in. It was honestly one of the best. I don't give Google reviews very often. This one got one.
Mhm.
It was
Oh, that's
but they were
awesome.
closed. Like the amount of time that they were open is less than the time they are closed for sure, because there's the window after lunch into dinner. And I think the time that we were there was around 7:30, and that was early, right? Like that was
Yeah,
early for
yeah.
dinner. But I mean, the other thing that they do is that they're people are drinking alcohol at like 10 a.m. Like they're not,
Yeah.
I mean, I went to this cafe, the Brasilia, I think it's called the Cafe de Brasilia or Brasileira, the one that Pessoa used to write at, the famous Portuguese.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he has a statue outside. And my wife saw, I'm like, I want to go in here. And she's like, have fun. And she took off and did her own thing because she has no interest. And I sat in there with with a journal, and I wrote, and I ordered what he would order, the gingeira drink and all that stuff. And I sat, and it was probably 11 maybe. And even then I'm like, well, it's not fun. It's not noon yet. And I'm like, well, hold on. For lack of a better term, when in Lisbon as opposed to when in Rome. And I mean, you're
Mhm.
walking along like the Lisbon beaches, like where the art museum was, and there's Aperol spritz, like Aperol
Mhm,
carts
mhm.
that are open at like 9.
Yeah, yeah,
And you're
yeah,
like, all right
yeah.
then. And so,
Mm.
but it does, I think that the interesting thing about travel, and when you expose yourself to that kind, like to other cultures and other travel, yes, you see the similarities, you see the differences too, but you have to conduct yourself with a level of grace to be
Mhm.
willing, because there are instances, I know several people that when they go places, they're like, well, how come it's like this? Like they get immediately closed
Mm,
off. And it's
mhm,
like, but that's because that's the way they operate. Like it's their,
mhm.
just because you don't operate that way. And this is, if you were to take that and bring it into like, say, a work culture, or even in your own, I mean, you can't impose your will on a
Mhm.
culture like that. You need to be able to
Yeah,
conduct yourself with grace throughout.
yeah, and what you may find is that, "Oh, okay, the reason this works this way is because their lifestyle is, their work schedules and their this schedule and their that is set up like this, and, okay, that now it all makes sense as to why they're eating at dinner at 10 o'clock at night." Um,
Mhm.
but
Or it takes longer to get the food. Like, I mean, you could be waiting a
sure.
while because slow food movements are far more popular in Europe than anywhere else.
Well, yeah, sure, and also because they're in general making things fresh from scratch versus,
When we were in,
versus things that came off of a semi truck.
yeah, when we were in the Philippines a number of years ago, we were in the mountain area because I wanted to hike the Batad rice terraces. Again, I was there for a conference, and we had to order our dinner before we went out. And they're like, well, what would you like? I'm like, I would like, I'm going to have chicken for dinner. And they go, which one? I'm like, what do you mean, which one? And they're pointing at the chickens that are running around. I'm like, you pick. Like, I don't know, right? But that's the thing.
Exactly.
I mean, and some people don't want to know where their food comes from. I knew that night, as did my wife, where our food came from. It literally was running around earlier that day. And you're like, all right, well, and again, you can make choice. They had vegetarian stuff, although for most part, Filipinos were more into meat, at least where we were, than vegetables per se. But it was fascinating to go, all right, well, I guess we're going hiking. And by the way, when we went on our hiking training with our guide, I didn't give it a second thought after the fact, right? I did not give it a second thought because, I mean, it's just that's the way it is. And if you, but yes, exactly. Like,
Well, and once again, that's, another part of, having some grace, right? But I think, once again, I spoke about this, I believe as this airs, it'll be last episode, or maybe it was the one, I forget now. It all runs together in my head.
It does.
But, once again, I'm going to keep returning to this. I keep returning to this because it's something that I struggle with, right? And I want folks also to kind of keep this in mind. We don't say this enough on these quote unquote productivity shows or whatnot, but that so much of what we talk about and what you hear and advice we give and this, that, and the other is as much for us as it is for anyone listening.
Yeah.
We're trying to solve our own issues here, and we hope that other people benefit from our failure. But the most important grace I think that we need to give first is to ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. For sure.
To the things that don't get done on the to-do list, to the things that, that we think or we say or we do that are maybe not quite appropriate. Maybe we need to give some grace to ourselves for not feeling like we're doing enough.
Can I give you an example? Literally happened.
I would love one.
Today. I guess technically today.
Yeah.
Yes. So I stumbled upon an older video of somebody who I'd been following their work for a while and had paid for an annual subscription for their app. I'm not going to say who it is, but if someone wants to dig deeply enough, they probably could figure it out. And they were on a television program, and they said something about a religion that was basically, they said, this religion is the, quote, mother lode of bad ideas, is what they said. And I was like, that is such an absolutist view about, it doesn't matter what religion it is. It doesn't matter.
Anything.
It doesn't matter. Anything at all. So I pride myself on trying to be more responsive than reactive, but that got me, especially since I had been paying for this thing at least for 2, maybe 3 years in a row. So I wrote a email to the support team and said, I would like to a strongly worded email that said, I'm canceling, and I would like a refund, prorated, based on what was said. And they to their credit, they responded later that day, and I already have the refund being processed, which is great. But then after the fact, I did a bit more digging. Turns out that this was said over a decade ago on this television program.
Oh, wow.
Now, So immediately I felt silly and stupid that I didn't dig deeper, that I reacted
Mhm.
instead of, I felt like I reacted more than responded. But then I started to think about it a bit more. I'm like, well, hold on. I didn't like fly off the handle. My email was, as you put it, strongly worded. It wasn't overly emotional. It was like stating facts. And then I did research post, like almost like an after action report. Like, it turns out that I was not wrong to, like, this person
Mhm.
still holds these beliefs. They've added a bit of, let's say, qualifiers to it, but I almost
Mhm.
wonder if those are reactive as opposed
Mhm.
to, you know,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
true,
Genuine.
genuine, authentic.
Yeah.
But then there's some other things I discovered. I'm like, okay, well, I don't like this either. I don't like this
Mhm.
either. So I'm like, okay. So I made the correct call with less information than I normally would.
Mhm.
So I can still feel stupid and silly for that brief moment. But again, that's the example of grace. I'm like, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it because
Yeah.
even if they didn't give me the outcome I wanted, even if they had said, and they didn't have to, they could have said, nope, we're going to cancel your account. Sorry, we don't do refunds. That's it. And I would have been like, that's fine. I'm not using the program anymore. And you can, I'm deleting my account, et cetera, et cetera. But they, to their credit, they did that. So at the end of it all, and this again, as we're recording this literally happened a couple hours ago. Where I'm like, okay, so I'm going to give myself grace in this moment because yes, I did not do what I would normally do, but because my
Mhm.
values were impacted, I can
Mhm.
recognize that that's important to me. So instead of feeling silly and stupid, I'm like, well, instead, I'm looking at it from the perspective of this means a lot to me, and that's why I reacted that way.
Well, I think too often, and and this is especially important in these times in which we are living,
Mhm.
um, especially here in the United States of America. Um, it is okay to change one's mind.
Yes.
It is okay to to realize that choices that you made in the past don't align with the direction you would like to see things going forward, right?
Mhm.
It and and what we often do, and I'm going to specifically call out cancel culture here,
Sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right? That we are all too quick to, if somebody was had particular beliefs or said particular things or whatever 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and we were like, "Yep, nope, nope, done with them, not da da da," and they come out and they say, "Oh, geez, I was really wrong. That was really hurtful. I believed that then. It was the wrong thing to believe. I'm a better person now, or whatever, and I would like to, at least be, I'm not, saying that I want people to forget all about that. I just want people to understand that that allowed me a lot of growth and to have a lot of conversations that now have led me to a different place and
Right.
to at least acknowledge where I am now versus where I was then. Um, and we're all too quick to just say, "Oh no, you said I'm
Well,
done with." No,
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. And I mean,
And,
I want to really quickly use an example that just came out, like Tiger Woods, the Tiger Woods
sure,
thing that just happened.
yeah,
You know, the this has happened on multiple occasions now, more than once.
yeah,
So, and one of the first things apparently, and again, I'm going to say apparently or allegedly, he did was pick up the phone and call one who one could say is the most powerful person in the United States to say, I'm quote in trouble. And I'm like, so I am still willing to wait to see what happens from all of this. But this is where, and I think this is the tricky part, the benefit of the doubt,
The
the
grace,
doubt,
as it were.
yeah, in this case, I'm not willing to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point. I might be willing
Sure.
to concede and somewhere down the line. And that's because
Sure.
because patterns have emerged. If that
Sure.
call indeed did happen, then that's
Mhm.
not really an act of contrition or going, oh, I screwed up. And again, he was, from the sounds of it, under the influence and such. So, emotion may have taken hold and he didn't have all his wits about him. Maybe. So that's the degree of the benefit of the doubt I'm willing to give, but not on the incident itself at this point. Now, ultimately, do I, quote, care about this? Not at the, but I'm using it as an example because
Yeah, sure.
that would be someone who says, I
Sure.
screwed up again. I've clearly, as everything is pointed out, I've not learned my lesson. I need to call someone that, regardless of what I've done, will help me get out of it based on who I am and my status.
Mhm.
And that, to me, if that is the case, is
Yeah.
that's the opposite of what you're talking about.
Right.
That's not
Exactly.
exhibiting
Or
grace at all. That's not exhibiting grace
right.
at all.
Right. Or, if you disagree with the views that, say, J.K. Rowling has about trans individuals, then she doesn't apologize for that.
Nope.
She in fact doubles
Doubles
down on
down.
it, and she
Yeah.
says you're the ones who have you're the weirdos. You're the ones who have the problem. You're the hateful ones because you're jumping on me for having what I believe are perfectly sensible opinions.
Well,
Um,
the villain is
and-
never the villain in their own story, regardless of what side
right.
they're on, right? Now, I'm not going to say J.K. Rowling's a villain, although I definitely don't agree with her thoughts on this. But I mean,
Yes.
again, the
Yeah,
villain,
but
it's
my point
perspective.
being
Yeah.
is that, if someone shows you who they are and then, you say, "Hey, is that really who you are?" And they say, "Oh, no, that's definitely who I am."
Mhm.
Well, then they don't get the same grace as somebody who takes the time, has the self-compassion and the self-grace to be able to say, you know what? Even though this is a firmly held belief of mine, I'm getting enough pushback, and it's affecting me enough economically. Not that it's really affecting her economically,
See
but you get what I'm saying.
but that to
Right.
me is also a bit of a red flag. It's
Sure.
affecting me
Sure.
economically, so I'm going to do it because I'm losing
Yeah,
money.
yeah. Or at the very least, I'm going to have some self-reflection as to why, why that might be, right?
Did you see the piece where Mark Andreessen, I think it was, the interview about
Mhm.
not
It
getting
has
any?
no introspection.
I'm
Yes.
like, how do you to me
I
that is a classic example of, it doesn't matter what I do, I will keep moving forward and leave whatever happens in my wake. It doesn't really matter. Like that's how that comes across
Yeah.
to me. That
Right. No, but
I
I
don't
don't
buy it
believe
either.
that
I
to
think
be. I
I think
don't buy it.
we
I think he says it because it makes him sound like some cool wizard of
I
tech
never I
philosophy or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always 100% on course. I never have to course correct. My forward progress is always forward progress. I never have to think. I never have to reevaluate what I did to get here. It's just go, go,
Yeah.
go, and
Yeah.
it
But
is.
but what but what that completely um kind of disavows is like everything I don't even know how to say this because I haven't properly thought through it. I was
Sure.
actually thinking through it as I was running errands earlier today. Um, but how so much of life itself is built by struggle,
Well,
is built is built out of. I mean, just think about
life
it.
is suffering
You,
is like, right. That's
yes,
I mean,
that's
so
right. Yes, but even more like fundamental than that, right?
mm,
childbirth. Every one of us is here because some woman had the guts, had the bravery, had the strength, had the fortitude to suffer for hours,
Hmm.
days, even in some cases, to
Yep.
make sure that we were here. Like we begin, we are begotten, you know, with suffering.
Have you seen those videos on TikTok? You probably haven't, but I'm going to ask anyways. Where the women are pregnant, and the partner comes from behind and lifts up their belly, and the relief on their face. No, but it's like to show some
Yeah,
like, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that is such a small act of
yeah,
grace that is
yes,
so appreciated. Now, again,
yes,
it's not like they can walk around with them behind them all the time and do that. I mean,
yeah,
but it's such a
yeah,
small act of kindness and act of grace that can say so much with just one gesture.
yeah, yeah, and so one of the things, and it was really my wife's idea, but when she mentioned it to Beatrix was on board, but so Beatrix has decided on a college,
Hmm.
which means that she has to go and decline going to others for which she had applied and
Yeah.
has been accepted and declined their offer of admission. Um, and my wife said, what would be nice would be to just write a little email to the admissions folks at those places that you're declining, to say that, hey, thanks. I really appreciate being accepted to your school. Ultimately, I've decided on another that better fits my needs, but let that not be a reflection on you. And hopefully this opens up space for somebody who's on the wait list and would
Hmm.
really love to attend your institution. Um, and so we were at a college counseling event at her school with the school's college counselors, and my wife mentioned that we had suggested this in the room, and like everybody was like, "Whoa, wait, what? Oh, huh, that's kind of brilliant, huh?" You know, um, it's just a small act of grace. And one of the college counselors who actually comes out of the admissions world, right? She worked in admissions for years at a
Hmm.
small liberal arts college here in the States, uh, but prestigious. And she said, "Oh no, we rarely get those, but when we do, it's very nice, and we remember," right? It's
Hmm.
like, kind of one of those things for like, because here's the rationale, right? The rationale is, number one, it's a kind thing to do. You do it
Yeah.
just out of kindness. It's so much kinder than just hitting the decline button with no explanation, right? Um, number two, it shows a sense of gratitude, right? For even being considered. I mean, it's nice, and not everyone gets that. Most colleges in the United States, many colleges, especially the ones she's applying to, you know, they've got maybe 100 slots, 200 slots open up for undergraduate admissions, and they get 10,000 applications. So or more, right?
Right.
And so to be admitted is a BFD, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um, and um, and what that also means is that for all of those kids that do make the cut, there's probably at least two or three times that many kind of waiting in the wings, right?
Hmm.
On a wait list that were good enough, but not quite good enough, that were the right fit, but not quite the rightest fit, right?
Right.
And yeah, to be able to acknowledge that with some grace and some compassion and some openness to doing the right thing, I mean, is huge. And so few people do it. And therefore it makes those that do stand out, because you never know. You never know. Maybe she goes to the school that she's going to. Maybe that doesn't quite work out. Maybe she gets there and she figures out, I really hated that. Da, da, da. Maybe she wants to transfer to one of those other schools.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she comes across
Now,
one of those people that read that email and somewhere down the line, right? Like, I mean,
somewhere down the line,
yeah.
you really, you don't know, and also, ooh, this is really important. This is really important for the conversation. You have no idea how much the smallest act of kindness can literally change someone else's life. You don't know what most people are going through. You don't know who that checkout person behind the station at Target. You don't know what's going on in their life, right? You don't know what's necessarily happening in the life of your coworker, even, to be honest with you, if you're not having those sorts of water cooler conversations. And even then, you're only getting a small window. They may not be telling you that, hey, no, my dad is actually in hospice right now, and every day after work I have to go check in on him and see if he's still breathing, or I'm sitting here waiting for the phone to ring every moment, for the past month, because it might be the call that says, hey, you need to get down here right away, because we're talking minutes, not hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that, right? And so you have no idea how, hey, I'm going to buy this coffee for the next person in line.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay for my order. I want to pay for theirs too. Don't tell them,
Mm-hmm. I think that's the other key too, is like when you make space for grace, part of that element is the acts of kindness. It's not a shout, it's a whisper.
Yeah. 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 And it
But it
should
echoes.
be,
It
right?
echoes though. It echoes. It's a
It
whisper that
does echo.
echoes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just, you don't know. You don't know what sort of day someone's having. Heck, you don't know what sort of year someone's having. And you also don't know how, you know, like I said, Beatrix, one thing is Beatrix declining her spot at that school opens it up for somebody who really, really wants to go to that school.
Mm-hmm.
And she's literally changing someone else's life by saying no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Patrick, this has been a great conversation. Where can people keep up with what you've got going on before we get back together next month to do this all over again?
all right. PatrickRhone.com is the best place to start. That'll direct you to everywhere else.
And as for me, of course, you can find me on this podcast every single week. I'm doing solo episodes now too, which is kind of nice. And
Yeah.
also Productiveness. As we're recording this, there is no release date officially announced yet, but we are
Okay.
currently in the beta reading phase. So as of like today, I think is the last day that beta readers can leave feedback. And then it moves into the proofreading phase and then the ARC. So I probably should be able to announce by next episode when the release date will be and when pre-orders can start. So the book's called Productiveness, and we talked about one of the principles of productiveness today. So a little bit of a spoiler alert there. Thanks for chatting with me again today, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. This was a good one.